What if I told you that the limits you believe in, they're not real? What if I told you that the pain, trauma, and failures you've been running from are the exact things you need to become unstoppable? Meet David Goggins, the man who turned suffering into strength, fear into fuel, and excuses into extinction. His life isn't a motivation reel, it's a war story. And you're about to hear every brutal, real, and raw detail. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you'll not only know the core message of "can't hurt me," you'll walk away with a battle plan for your own life. Welcome to Book Loom, your destination for powerful book summaries that actually teach, guide, and transform. If you want to turn your pain into power, you're in the right place. Chapter 1. I should have been a statistic. Imagine being born into a war zone, not in a foreign country, but inside your own home. That was David Goggins' reality. In this first chapter, Goggins doesn't ease us into his story. He throws us into the fire. And it's hot, violent, and unforgiving. He was born in Buffalo, New York in 1975, a time and place where racism was rampant and opportunity was scarce. But that wasn't even the worst part. His father, Toughness Goggins, was a tyrannical, violent nightclub owner who forced young David and his mother to work late nights in a roller rink he owned, sometimes until 2 or 3 in the morning. David was only 6 years old. By day, David sat in school, sleep-deprived, bruised, anxious. By night, he endured beatings, abuse, and the weight of a childhood no kid should carry. His father didn't just control, he terrorized. Goggins describes living in constant fear, never knowing when the next punch, slap, or insult would land. Eventually, his mother made a bold escape. One night, she packed up what she could and fled with David, leaving behind the man who ruled their lives with fear. But escaping didn't erase the trauma. It followed Goggins like a shadow. At school, he faced relentless racism. As one of the few black students in a predominantly white town, he was humiliated, called names, and even had kids throw things at him. His sense of worth? Shattered. Confidence? Non-existent. To cope, he began lying, hiding, and fading into the background. He developed a stutter, battled learning disabilities, and avoided eye contact. Fear owned him. Self-hate consumed him. He began to believe what the world told him, that he was broken, that he'd never amount to anything. But here's where it gets intense. Despite all of that, the abuse, the racism, the failure, Goggins didn't break. He bent for a long time, but he didn't break. This chapter sets the tone for the entire book. You can be born into hell and still climb out. In his own words, I should have been a statistic, but I chose something different. And that's what this chapter teaches us. Your past does not own you. It may shape you, but it doesn't have to define you. Goggins introduces the idea that every person has a calloused mind buried beneath fear, doubt, and pain, and the only way to access it is through brutal honesty and relentless effort. He's not trying to inspire us. He's warning us, if you don't face your demons, they'll own your life. Key takeaways from Chapter 1. Your environment is not your excuse, it's your test. Truth is your weapon, not comfort, not motivation. You can't fix what you refuse to face. This chapter isn't about self-help cliches. It's about raw, painful reality and how to survive it. But here's the question. If David Goggins could face a mirror and call himself a liar, a coward, and a failure, what did he do next to completely reinvent his life in just a few months? What made a 300-pound man who sprayed cockroaches for a living suddenly decide to become a Navy SEAL? We will know in the next chapter. Chapter 2. Truth hurts. Imagine waking up one day looking in the mirror and realizing you've been lying to yourself for years. That's the core of Chapter 2, the brutal, undeniable, uncomfortable truth. David Goggins was living a lie. After barely surviving an abusive childhood and years of racist bullying, He had grown into a 300-pound exterminator. He spent his days spraying for cockroaches and rats, avoiding eye contact with life, and burying his pain in milkshakes, fast food, and self-pity. His dreams of being in the military? Dead. His self-respect? Gone. His soul? Number. And then, one night, everything changed. He turned on the TV and saw a documentary about Navy SEALs, men pushing their bodies and minds to the limit. Something inside him ignited. It was like a fire had been hiding under all that weight, waiting for oxygen. That moment, that image of pure human toughness, woke him up. But then came the truth. David looked at himself in the mirror. For the first time in years, he saw the man he had become. Overweight, weak, full of excuses, afraid of hard work, and completely out of control. And instead of running from it like he always did, he faced it, head on. I saw the truth, and it hurt like hell, but it was also the beginning of freedom. This chapter dives deep into the importance of brutal self-honesty. Goggins says we've all been fed the same lie: be nice to yourself, don't be so hard on yourself. But in reality, that kind of thinking keeps us soft, comfortable, average. He introduces what he calls the accountability mirror, a tool that changed his life. Every night, he would look into the mirror and speak the raw, painful truth to himself. He didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't say, "I'm trying my best." He called himself out for skipping workouts, for lying, for eating junk, for being lazy. And then he started writing down goals on sticky notes and placing them on the mirror. Not motivational quotes, accountability, daily challenges, things that forced growth. This wasn't about self-hate. It was about radical self-respect. Key lessons from Chapter 2. You can't fix your life until you admit what's broken. The truth will hurt, but it's also your greatest weapon. Real change begins with real talk, with yourself. Goals without honesty are fantasies. He knew that the only way to become something different was to start doing something different, right now. And that started with owning his failures, not escaping them. So, he cleaned up his diet, started working out, lost over 100 pounds in 3 months. Why? Because the Navy SEAL recruiter told him he only had 3 months to qualify, or the door would close forever. Goggins was done being weak. He was done being soft. He was done being a statistic. David's own words: tell yourself the truth. You're fat because you eat. Chapter 3. The Impossible Task. How far would you go to chase a dream that everyone says is impossible? Now imagine being told, you're too fat, too slow, too broken, you'll never make it. This is where Chapter 3 picks up. After confronting his brutal reality in front of the accountability mirror, David Goggins made a promise. He would become a Navy SEAL, the toughest warriors on the planet. But there was a huge problem. He weighed 297 pounds. And he had just 3 months to lose over 100 pounds, or the chance to join the SEALs would vanish forever. Everyone told him, it's impossible. But Goggins wasn't listening anymore. He went to war with his body. He adopted a diet that was pure discipline. He worked out 3 times a day, cardio, weights, swimming, repeat, no shortcuts, no breaks, no excuses, even when his knees ached, when he couldn't breathe, when his mind screamed to quit, he pushed harder. Because this wasn't just about weight loss, it was about self-respect. Every day was an act of self-redemption. He trained like a man possessed, waking up at 4 a.m., biking to work, running miles afterward, and squeezing in weight training between shifts. He calculated every calorie, every step, every second. He understood something most people never will. If you want to change your life, you have to suffer. On purpose. And he did. In just under 3 months, Goggins dropped from 297 to 190 pounds, losing over 100 pounds through nothing but sweat, pain, and obsession. He passed the physical entrance exam by a hair, But he made it. Now came Bud S, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, one of the most feared military courses in the world. That's where this chapter takes a terrifying turn. Goggins entered BUDS with a weak body, but a strong mind. He had no clue what was coming. Sleep deprivation, ocean plunges, brutal beatings from cold water, log carries, drown-proofing drills, Hell Week. And yet, he survived the unthinkable, but not the first time. During his first Bud S attempt, he fractured his kneecap. Blood leaked into his boots. Pain shot up his spine. He was pulled out of training. Now most people would quit. Say, it's not meant to be. Go back to comfort. Not Goggins. He healed up, came back, and fractured his kneecap again. And again, he came back. I went through Hell Week 3 times, and I still kept coming. That's what this chapter is all about. Turning the impossible into possible through suffering, obsession, and a refusal to quit. It shows us that the limits we think we have, their lies, the pain we run from, that's where the growth is. Key lessons from Chapter 3. Most people quit when pain starts. Goggins began when it hurt. Progress doesn't come from comfort. It comes from embracing the impossible. Excuses are easy. Ownership is hard. Goggins chose hard every single day. Failure isn't the end. Quitting is. David's own words. You are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential. This chapter isn't about weight loss or SEAL training. It's about overcoming the war in your own head, the voice that says you can't. Goggins silenced it through suffering, through action, through a commitment to do what most people won't. But here's the question. What kind of mindset allows someone to run on broken legs and keep pushing through unimaginable pain? And what if you could train your own mind to become just as unstoppable? We will know in the next chapter. Chapter 4. Taking Souls. What if you could break your enemies without saying a word? What if your pain became your power, and your suffering your weapon? Welcome to Chapter 4. Taking Souls. This chapter introduces one of the most intense mental strategies David Goggins ever developed. A strategy so powerful it allowed him to turn the tables, even when he was the one being crushed. Let's rewind. David was back in BUD/training. He was deep in the infamous Hell Week, a 5.5-day crucible of pain, exhaustion, cold, and mental warfare. Most trainees were sleep-deprived, soaked in freezing ocean water, and on the edge of quitting. But Goggins saw something different. He looked into the eyes of the Navy SEAL instructors, those men who were supposed to break him, and he saw something unexpected. They were frustrated, surprised, even shaken. Why? Because Goggins refused to be broken. Even when the instructors turned up the suffering, more push-ups, more cold plunges, more punishment, he smiled. He yelled louder, he ran faster, he volunteered for the front of the line, and that's when it hit him. If you can thrive in the exact moment they expect you to break, you can steal their soul. He calls this taking souls. It's not about revenge, it's not about ego, it's about owning the moment so powerfully that you flip the power dynamic. Taking souls is about changing the energy in the room. It's when your enemy realizes he can't hurt you anymore. Goggins used this technique not just in training, but throughout his life. In school, in the gym, in the military. On 100-mile ultramarathons. When people doubted him, insulted him, or tried to break him, he smiled, pushed harder, and let his effort do the talking. This chapter is about more than toughness. It's about mental warfare. About walking into the worst situation and becoming so unshakable that you become unforgettable. Key lessons from Chapter 4. When life turns up the heat, turn up your performance. The best revenge is to keep going when they expect you to quit. You don't rise by being average. You rise by being relentless. The taking souls mindset turns pain into a platform for power. David's own words. It's easy to be great when things are going well. The test is when you're suffering and you still find a way to rise. Goggins proves that in every painful moment, we have a choice. Do we quit, complain, crumble, or do we take control and shock everyone around us with unstoppable effort? That's the art of taking souls. It's not about breaking others. It's about elevating yourself so high that no one can drag you down. But here's the question. If pain can be turned into power, what happens when that pain never stops? What if your body starts falling apart, but your goals are bigger than your pain? Chapter 5. Armored Mind. What if you could train your mind to be so strong that even your body's failure couldn't stop you? Welcome to Chapter 5. Armored Mind, the point in David Goggins' story where he begins to master not just suffering, but how to use it as fuel to build something far greater, an indestructible mind. After enduring 3 rounds of Hell Week, 2 fractured kneecaps, and countless moments that would break even the strongest men, David came to a realization. Your body gives up long before your mind ever should. And most people? They never find out what they're truly capable of, because they quit when things just start to get uncomfortable. But not Goggins. He learned how to armor his mind, not with motivation, not with inspirational quotes, but with something far more powerful, calloused thoughts earned through hardship. Just like hands get tougher through work, your mind gets tougher through voluntary suffering. He wasn't born with mental strength, he built it. Every cold plunge, every brutal workout, every rejection, and every insult became a tool in his mental armor. He writes, "The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you'll have with yourself." So Goggins created a mental toolkit that included 1. The cookie jar. A mental reserve of every achievement, every win, every moment where he overcame odds. When things got hard, he reached into that jar and reminded himself, if I survived that, I can survive this. I pull out my cookie jar, and it reminds me who the hell I am. 2. Visualization. He didn't just imagine success. He visualized pain, suffering, setbacks. He prepared for the worst, so when it arrived, it wasn't a surprise, it was the plan. 3. Self-talk. When negativity crept in, he didn't let it take root. He replaced I can't with I will. He didn't wait for others to believe in him. He became his own loudest supporter. This chapter is not about motivation. It's about mental discipline. About building a mind so strong, no failure can penetrate it. Because the truth is, if you don't control your own mind, someone else will. Key takeaways from Chapter 5. Mental toughness is not a gift. It's earned through reps of suffering. Your mind can be calloused just like your body. Victory doesn't always look like a win. It looks like not quitting. Prepare for pain, and when it comes, you'll already know how to walk through it. Goggins' powerful reminder. If you want to be uncommon amongst the uncommon, your mind must be bulletproof. In this chapter, David teaches us that it's not about looking tough. It's about thinking tough. It's about standing in the storm when everyone else has run for cover and saying, I'm still here. This mindset doesn't just help you endure hard moments, it helps you dominate them. But here's the question. Once your mind is armored, how do you use that to conquer the impossible, like running over 100 miles on broken legs? That's what Chapter 6 is all about. It's not about a trophy. And trust me, you won't believe what happens next. Chapter 6. It's not about a trophy. What if everything you're pushing through isn't for recognition, but something far deeper? Welcome to Chapter 6. It's not about a trophy, where David Goggins shatters the illusion that achievement is about medals, awards, or trophies. Instead, he reveals the hidden true reason why he pushes himself to the absolute limit. At this point in his life, Goggins was tackling one of his greatest challenges yet. The Badwater Ultramarathon, a brutal 135-mile race through Death Valley, where temperatures soar above 120 degrees Fahrenheit and exhaustion is relentless. But here's the kicker. David wasn't running to win a shiny medal or to be praised by others. He was running to prove something to himself. This chapter dives deep into the internal battle, the fight against the voice inside that says, "Quit." The one that whispers when your legs are burning, your feet are blistered, and your body screams to stop. For Goggins, winning the race was never the point. He says, the trophy is just a byproduct of something much bigger, the will to keep going when no one else can. This is about mastering your mind to such an extent that you find meaning beyond external rewards. It's about battling the mental pain, owning your suffering, and rising stronger. Key moments from this chapter. Facing crushing pain and physical limits during the race, Goggins describes moments when his body literally began shutting down. His muscles cramped and blisters exploded. Other runners dropped out, but he kept moving forward. The real prize? That invisible, unbreakable part inside him, the relentless refusal to quit. Goggins introduces the concept that the true trophy is the story you tell yourself about how you refused to surrender, no matter the odds. He also shares how this mindset applies to life beyond racing, because every challenge tests your mental strength in ways no medal can measure. This chapter teaches us the greatest victories happen in the mind, not on a podium. When you stop chasing approval, you unlock raw, authentic motivation. Real toughness is about endurance when no one's watching. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. David's powerful insight. Don't focus on the trophy. Focus on the fight inside. That's where real growth lives. He challenges us all to ask, are you living for applause, or are you living to become the strongest version of yourself? But here's the question. If the trophy isn't the goal, then what fuels someone like David Goggins to endure beyond human limits? How does he turn relentless suffering into relentless success? Find out in the next chapter, Failure and Success, where Goggins reveals how he learned to embrace failure as the ultimate tool for winning. Chapter 7, The Most Powerful Weapon. What if the single most powerful weapon you have isn't physical strength or skill, but something far deeper and unseen? Welcome to Chapter 7, The Most Powerful Weapon. In this chapter, David Goggins takes us beyond the limits of physical endurance and mental toughness to reveal the ultimate weapon that changed everything, the mind. We often think strength is about muscle, speed, or technique, but Goggins flips this idea upside down. He shares how, over years of brutal training, pain, and extreme challenges, he discovered that the most formidable tool in his arsenal wasn't his body, it was his mindset. What makes the mind this unstoppable weapon? Control over thoughts. Goggins learned to master his inner dialogue. Instead of letting doubt, fear, or pain dominate, he took control of his thoughts and forced them to work for him. The ability to suffer and then go further. His mind became conditioned to not just endure pain, but to use pain as a signal to push beyond limits. A refusal to be a victim. He stopped blaming circumstances or past trauma and instead embraced complete ownership over his life. This mental ownership gave him power few people ever reach. One of the most memorable moments in this chapter is when Goggins confronts his own limitations head-on. He describes extreme moments of exhaustion during ultramarathons and Navy SEAL training, times when his body begged for rest. But his mind refused. He would quiet the noise of his body's protests and tell himself, "You're stronger than you think. This pain is temporary. Keep going." This wasn't blind optimism. It was mental armor forged in relentless practice. Key lessons from this chapter. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you possess, more than muscle, talent, or luck. Mental mastery requires intentional, consistent effort, just like training your body. Pain and discomfort are unavoidable, but your reaction to them is your choice. When you own your mind, no external force can break you. David's powerful insight. Your mind is the battlefield. The moment you control it, you control everything else. Goggins challenges us to stop running from discomfort and start arming our minds daily, because life will always throw challenges at us, but with the right mindset, those challenges become opportunities. But here's the question. If your mind is the most powerful weapon, then what's the secret to training it every day, no matter what life throws at you? How do you build mental calluses so tough they can't be broken? Find out in Chapter 8, Failure and Success, where Goggins reveals how embracing failure became his greatest teacher and weapon. Chapter 8, Talent Not Required. What if the biggest myth holding you back is believing you need talent to succeed? Welcome to Chapter 8, Talent Not Required, where David Goggins shatters the illusion that natural talent is the key to greatness. Instead, he reveals the brutal truth. Talent is overrated. Discipline, hard work, and relentless effort beat talent every single time. In this chapter, Goggins recounts his journey overcoming early life setbacks, lack of resources, a troubled childhood, and physical limits. He didn't have a silver spoon or natural gifts handed to him. What he had was an unbreakable work ethic and a refusal to accept not good enough. The core message here is clear. You don't need to be born gifted. You don't need talent to be extraordinary. You only need the will to outwork and outlast everyone else. Goggins gives eye-opening examples from his Navy SEAL training and endurance challenges. Many others around him had talent or advantages, better physiques, athletic backgrounds, or privileged upbringings. But those advantages counted for little when the pain, fatigue, and mental pressure hit. Goggins's secret weapon, consistency, discipline, embracing discomfort every single day. He believed that anyone willing to suffer longer and work harder would surpass those who relied on talent alone. Key lessons Goggins shares in this chapter. Talent can only take you so far. Discipline, mindset, and hustle are the real differentiators. The most successful people aren't the most talented, they're the most resilient. You can cultivate greatness by consistently doing what others won't. One powerful takeaway. It's not about talent, it's about effort and accountability. He teaches us to stop envying others and start focusing on what we control, our work ethic, our mindset, our daily habits. David's challenge to you. Talent is a myth. What's real is how much you're willing to endure and how hard you push when no one's watching. He wants you to ask yourself, are you willing to outwork your competition even when it hurts, even when it's lonely? But here's the question. If talent isn't required, then what's the one thing that truly separates the winners from the rest? How does Goggins transform his pain and past into unstoppable fuel for success? You'll find the answer in Chapter 9. It's not about a trophy, where Goggins takes his mindset and endurance to a whole new level of greatness. Chapter 9. Uncommon among the uncommon. What if simply being good isn't enough, and you have to be exceptional even among the elite? Welcome to Chapter 9. Uncommon among the uncommon. This chapter digs into one of Goggins' most powerful mindsets, the need to stand out even among the best of the best. Because when you're surrounded by excellence, like in Navy SEAL training or ultra-endurance races, being average or just good means falling behind. Here's the challenge. After overcoming countless obstacles, passing brutal Navy SEAL hell weeks, and crushing ultra-marathons, Goggins realized the battle didn't stop once he became exceptional. He had to push beyond even the elite standard, to be uncommon among the uncommon. What does that mean? It means you don't settle for just meeting the bar. You raise it higher. It means when others rest or get comfortable, you double down. It means cultivating an unshakable work ethic and mental toughness, so rare it sets you apart, even in a room full of warriors. Key moments from this chapter. Goggins shares stories of Navy SEAL training, where being just good enough wasn't enough to graduate. You had to be better than everyone else, mentally and physically. He describes how he deliberately sought out the hardest challenges to sharpen himself further, because comfort zones kill growth. Goggins developed a mindset of relentless improvement, turning every setback and pain into fuel to become stronger than his peers. Important lessons from this chapter. Excellence is a baseline. Uncommon greatness requires pushing past even that. You can't rely on past victories. You must continuously evolve and outwork everyone else. True greatness is about embracing discomfort, rejection, and failure again and again to stay ahead. When you become uncommon among the uncommon, you unlock a new level of confidence and purpose. David's insight. The world is full of average. To be truly exceptional, you must be willing to suffer more, work harder, and sacrifice more than anyone else, even the elite. He challenges us all to ask ourselves, are you just competing with the world, or are you competing with the best version of yourself every single day? But here's the question. If becoming uncommon among the uncommon means pushing past even the elite, then how do you keep that fire alive day after day, year after year? What mindset does Goggins rely on when the pain never stops and the pressure never eases? Discover the answer in Chapter 10. The Empowerment of Failure, where Goggins dives into how failure became the unexpected key to his unstoppable success. Chapter 10. The Empowerment of Failure. What if your biggest failures could become your greatest sources of strength? In this chapter, David Goggins reveals a revolutionary mindset shift. Failure isn't the enemy. It's the fuel that powers growth, resilience, and ultimate success. The story starts with Goggins facing some of his toughest setbacks. Whether it was Navy SEAL training failures, ultramarathon defeats, or personal struggles, Goggins experienced failure over and over. Most people would see failure as a stopping point, a sign to quit or give up. But Goggins saw it differently. Here's the game changer. He learned to embrace failure as a tool for transformation. Instead of fearing mistakes, he leaned into them, studying what went wrong, learning hard lessons, and using that pain to push himself even harder. Key insights from the chapter. Failure reveals your weaknesses, and identifying those weaknesses is the first step to conquering them. Every failure is a chance to build mental toughness and fortify your mindset. Goggins tells us failure is not a shameful end, but a stepping stone toward greatness. The process of failing and getting back up builds resilience, the core of mental armor. Powerful examples from Goggins' life. When he failed his first attempt at Navy SEAL training, he didn't quit. Instead, he returned stronger, more focused, and more prepared. During grueling endurance races, he faced physical collapse, but refused to let failure define him. He used those moments to reinforce his calloused mind. Goggins shares how accepting his failures helped him develop humility and self-awareness, critical elements in his personal growth. Lesson for us all. Failure is not your enemy. It's your teacher, your motivator, your ultimate ally in becoming the strongest version of yourself. David's challenge. Next time you fail, don't hide from it. Don't let it break you. Let it empower you. Let it fuel your fire to become unbreakable. But here's the question. If failure is the key to empowerment, then what mental habits help Goggins turn even the darkest moments into unstoppable motivation? How does he keep going when everything inside screams to stop? You'll find out in Chapter 11. What if? where Goggins reveals the mindset shift that pushed him beyond limits no one thought possible. Chapter 11. What if? What if the only thing holding you back from greatness is the question you never dared to ask yourself? Welcome to the final chapter, What If? Where David Goggins pulls all his lessons together and asks the question that changes everything. This chapter is more than just reflection. It's a powerful call to action that invites us to rethink what's possible in our own lives. The essence of this chapter. Goggins challenges us to constantly ask ourselves, what if I could push beyond my pain, my fears, my self-imposed limits? What if I'm capable of so much more than I think? This question isn't just a thought experiment. It's a catalyst for growth and transformation. Here's what makes this chapter special. Goggins reflects on his journey from a troubled childhood, battling abuse and racism, to becoming one of the toughest endurance athletes and Navy SEALs in history. He emphasizes that success isn't reserved for the gifted or lucky, but for those willing to embrace discomfort, embrace failure, and consistently ask, what if, to challenge their limits. The chapter is filled with stories of moments when Goggins chose to confront pain and uncertainty instead of avoiding it, because he believed the what if was worth exploring. Key takeaways from this chapter. Asking what if opens the door to possibilities you never imagined. It's about curiosity, courage, and the willingness to rewrite your story. When you face your hardest struggles and ask, what if I could overcome this? You activate the power of the mind and heart to endure and succeed. Goggins reminds us that the mind is the ultimate battlefield. If you control it, nothing can stop you. Final lessons. Goggins leaves us with, your cookie jar of past victories and lessons is a tool you can pull from whenever you doubt yourself. Growth demands discomfort. Never settle for comfort zones that limit your potential. You must become your own biggest challenger, relentlessly questioning and pushing yourself. Life's pain and struggle don't define you. Your response to them does. How to use this book to move forward. If Can't Hurt Me has taught us anything, it's that resilience, accountability, and mental toughness are skills you can develop, no matter your starting point. Here's how you can apply this in real life. 1. Create your own accountability mirror. Face your truth every day, hold yourself accountable, and refuse excuses. 2. Build your mental calluses by regularly stepping into discomfort, physical, mental, or emotional challenges that force growth. Third set. What if challenges. Push yourself beyond what feels possible, whether it's fitness goals, career moves, or personal growth. 4. Keep a cookie jar of your wins and lessons to draw strength during tough times. 5. Remember, talent isn't required. Grit and effort are everything. Final thought to ponder. What would happen if you started asking what if every time you felt like giving up? Could that be the key to unlocking your full potential and becoming truly unstoppable? Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. If this story of grit and transformation inspired you, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and comment below your thoughts. And that wraps up the final chapter of Can't Hurt Me, a powerful reminder that the question, what if, can unlock a life beyond limits, fear, and doubt. David Goggins shows us that greatness isn't about luck or talent. It's about relentless mental toughness, owning your story, and daring to push harder every single day. Now it's your turn to take these lessons, face your challenges head on, and ask yourself, what if I'm capable of more than I ever imagined? If you found this journey inspiring, hit that like button and subscribe for more transformative book summaries here on Book Loom. And I'd love to know, which audiobook should we dive into next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and let's keep growing together. Remember, your next breakthrough starts with a single question. What if?